All right. Thank you for being here. Rill, host, stylist, intimacy coach, writer, enterpriser. Where do you do most of your writing, creative planning, and quiet contemplation?
Well, actually, you know what? The writing came in like so much later. Um, because I have my service called Seductive Art, which is surrounding my sexuality. I teach women to embrace their divine femininity, give them sexual confidence, and to love the skin they're in. So, in the midst of me creating this, I had someone write me a press kit. So he just kept on hounding me, please, where you need to write a book, you need to write a book, you need to write a book. And I was like, no. He was like, no, seriously, you really need to write a book. And I was like, no, I'm not writing a book. Like, why are you saying that to me? Like, I'm not a writer, like it ain't something that I do. And so he just kept just pounding this in my ear. And I was just like, all right. But I think like maybe 2 years after him saying that to me, I was like, you know what? I am about to commit to writing a book, right? And what I was inspired by, I don't know if you know this author. Her name is Zane. Zane is an African American erotic fiction writer, and she wrote a book. She got several, but there's one book in particular that I read. It was called Sex, and it was several, like a lot of small sex stories. So I was just like. And I was really, really into it. And it was really, really good. And then after me reading that book, I was like, this guy just kept on saying, you need to write a book, you need to write a book. So I said, oh, all right, so let me write this book. So as far as with me coming up with it and me getting my focus on writing, I had met someone, I live in New York City. So I met this lady who, she was the dean of Columbia, or she was somebody big. I don't know what actually her title was. Anyway, we started talking. I'm telling her about all the things that I was doing. I'm also a designer. I'm an award-winning designer there in New York Fashion Week 2021. And also a stylist. And I have my service called Seductive Art. And we were just talking, and so she was like, and I was just like, I don't have any, like, I go to the library at the time, like, I was down bad financially. And so she said, you know what? I have a space in my office. It's not a part of my office that you can use. You can just come in. All you got to do is show your ID. I'll let them know at the office, at the front door that you will be coming here frequently. And I did. I used her office for like, I think maybe like 3 years. And in the midst of me being there for those 3 years, that first year, it took me a whole year to write 7 stories. I didn't realize how complex it is and how your structure has. And mind you, I am an amateur. But I'm very observant. I learn through. I'm a visual learner, and also like just reading other people's books. And I was just like, how you have to follow, and you can't lose the reader. But it took me 7 years to do that. So, and mind you, it was at a nice, quiet, quaint little office that I had for myself, and that's where I got down with all my writing.
Nice. Then is that book that you have published, is that the only one, or do you still do writing? How often do you do it?
You know what? Actually, no, that's the only book I've ever written. And I told you, like, just because this man just kept on saying, like, I need to write a book, and I was just like, and also and in the midst of that, what's the lady that just did 50 Shades of Grey was hot, but I was like, yo. Mind you, I've never read it, but her book, but I did go see the movie, and I was just like, you know what? And then on top of me just reading Zayn, and I was just like, okay, I think I can do this, and so that's like how it basically came about.
How'd you decide on the stories for each one, the setting or whatever?
Oh, well, wow, that's a good question. Because let me tell you something. I have not revisited that book in a very long time, to be honest with you. Although I promote it all the time. Okay, let me go back. So the one of the stories is my story. I
Okay.
didn't start with that story, but one of them is a true story. And I think at one point I had given people some trivia, but no one could figure out which one was mine. Everybody thought something else was mine, but it wasn't. It's one of them is, but of course I embellished it just a tad, but it's true. The other ones, they just came to me like at random. And it's funny that you asked me about writing because I think I've always, when I used to be I called myself a poet who never shared. I would always go to these poetry readings and be like so nervous because I didn't know how, I was like how a lot of poets deliver their poetry. They all have like the same type of, I don't know what's the word, sound bite or
The
like that,
cadence.
like the cadence, right? They all have that same cadence, and I just didn't feel that actually fit what I was doing. So I was afraid. So I've always, now that I think about it, like I've always written like poetry, and so as far as me coming up with that, I don't know. I allow my brain to just flow like seriously, like I just allow it to just and besides my story, everything else is like just straight up fiction and just coming from me just like sitting down and I would like rough draft the first like and just and create the characters kind of like as I go or slash I think I would do the scenes first, create like a scene like in my mind, like okay, like
Hmm.
where are these people, how are they meeting, and that type of thing, and then I'll just let my hand just go.
Do you find that when you write poetry, it's different than when you're writing a story?
No, you say something that's so funny that you just said that. Wow, you really are taking me back. I remember this one, it was so profound. I'm gonna have to go back and read some of my stuff, like how my brain I don't even know how to explain it, but I would just allow my brain and my fingers to just go, and they would become one. And this one, so it was so powerful to me. It was about this and it was sex. It involved sex, and it was about this lady who was, I guess, I think was she a sexual deviant? I don't want to exactly say she was a sexual deviant, but she was into casual sex. And at the end, like it blew my mind that I even wrote like that she wound up having AIDS or something. Like it blew my mind. Like I swear, as I was writing it. So yeah, I just allow my brain and my hand to just move, and I just allow it to flow, and then I'll go back and clean it up.
When you're thinking about it, like during the regular part of the day and the thought comes to you wherever you are, do you write a note down about it or a line or an idea and then come back to it later to do the scene? Or is it something that when you think about, you write it right then, or you don't have to take notes about it?
Where as far as the book, well, no, I don't really take no notes. I just be in the moment. And when I'm in
Okay.
a moment, I just allow it. It just happens. I think also because I'm truly a creative person, like really, and like I just like everybody who would think they're creative is like super super creative. Everybody says that they think they're creative, but so I'm more creative than others. But I know that I definitely have that inside of me. So as far as like with the fashion, as well as with the dancing, um, so when I got involved like with the writing, I just really seriously, it's just like I just sit there and allow my brain to just go. And when I wrote this book, I did this for a year. No lie, 8 hours a day for 5 out of 5 days out of the week. That's all I did. Besides, I did my work and stuff like that. But with my business, but it was 8 hours that I sat at the laptop and just and allow it to just go.
Where do you think that creativity comes from? Do you think it's something that we have within ourselves and we manifest it within ourselves off of our perspective and experience, or is it something that's comes from outside of us and we kind of channel it through, or is it a mixture of both? Like, for instance, the Romans used to think about the idea of genius, and our idea of genius, I think, is a little bit different, to where if somebody reads something or looks at something someone's made and they go, oh, that you're a genius to be able to do this. When the Romans said it, they were saying that's genius, as in that's something outside of you that's worked through you. You are the instrument and not the hand, so to speak. So where do you think creativity comes from?
Well, I don't know about everybody's, but for me, like I am definitely one with the Most High. So I believe that it definitely comes from the Creator, and also like the Creator. I don't know if it's a he or whatever. The spiritual realm is upon me because I was gifted that. And I know that. As far as, well, at first with which I know like right off the bat, it's definitely the dancing and definitely the fashion. Like I just know that's something that God just was like, that belonged to you. Because whenever I do it, I fuck that shit up. So, but as far as with the writing, like I think it could be possibly like an out of body experience that I think I be having sometimes, because it is, and it's, I'm not like really conscious like when I'm writing. Now that I think about it, just like I wrote that, I have to go back and read that poem. Like it was really deep, and at the end, like it blew my own mind. And this was like, this had to be like 10 years ago when I wrote that. But I do remember this specifically about like writing at the end about like that she wound up having AIDS. Like it just, that one was wild. I also wrote another poem which was something that was like true to me, and it was an experience. I was, mind you, I'm originally from Flint, Michigan. If y'all know about Flint, Michigan, everybody know about Flint, Michigan, where the water is poisoned, when it's getting better now. But I live in New York, been living here for like 3 decades now. And, I suffer from a lot of loneliness. Didn't really know how to harness that and make it really work for me. But now I do. And I know that like it truly is a blessing once you get to be one with self. So I was really lonely. And so this one poem in particular was from my experience. And it's really sad. I've never read it to anybody. And it's and the title of it is No One Cares About Me. Because that's truly like how I felt. Because I mean, I'm around like people around New York like all the time, is everywhere. But this can be the most loneliest place. You know what I'm saying? Although it's a whole bunch of people around, you still can be like just a minuscule, just in your own little world, like just by yourself with no one like really. So everybody moving around, but no one really cares about you in particular. Because I didn't have any family here. And this was back in the time where cell phones, when I first moved here, wasn't a thing yet. We were still on the pagers. And so that one was like definitely something from my own personal experience that I went through that was very heartfelt. And as I look at it, like I said, and being alone, like a lot of people don't embrace it, because you learning so much about yourself and how to navigate this world as an individual. Because people feel like, and we are all social creatures, and I understand that, but but a lot of us don't even know who we are, like as a person, like just who are you, like really. So, but that one came from that experience, and because of that experience, I really got to know who I am as a person, as a being, and that poem was really, it made me, when I remember when I wrote it, like it did make me cry a little bit, because I was like, damn, like don't, like I remember one time I was just out, and my New York, you're just out, and I was like, it was something was that don't nobody really, at least like in my mind, and I know that's not necessarily that's not true, because I have my parents, I have my sisters and brothers, everybody lived there. I'm the only one here, and then I hadn't met like friends yet, but which actually came like later. So, you know, that one came from a serious, my own personal experience. But if anybody out there going through some loneliness, just embrace it and live in it and get to know yourself. So.
Yeah. For me, poetry feels different than writing a book. Poetry is like I can tell when I'm writing it, just basically me, and then I can tell when it's kind of writing itself and I'm just the antenna or the conduit for something. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that conduit is something outside communicating, trying to get a message across, or if it's using my experience and perspective of this reality we're in to be able to put into words some sort of idea that maybe as a human we can't understand totally because we're outside of it's outside of our reach of understanding. But poetry is more ethereal to me than regular writing. But writing a book, I still feel like you can get into the zone sometimes where it feels like it's writing itself and you've kind of created these characters in this story, but then they start to make their own decisions. And you can write a line for a character, and then you're like, well, that's not what that character would say. This is what this character would say, or this is what this character would do. And it surprises you when you're writing that it takes a turn that you weren't expecting. So
Wow.
it's interesting to think about where all that essence of creativity comes from. But do you feel like through writing, dancing, fashion, that that creative spirit is the same, or do you think it has its different specialities in that? Like maybe it's a different force or some, for lack of a better word.
Um, no, I believe that it's the same. Because like I said, I've always known. I remember in the third grade, I used to write in my notebook, fashion designer, dancer. Like just, I always knew that was something because it was always something that was a part of like me. Like, and I was always different as far as fashion is concerned. Like always, like people just used to talk about me really, really bad because of the way that I used to dress. Because I wasn't like the typical teenager or things of that nature. But I think it all comes from the same place for me personally, because like I said, I know that God placed this on me to be creative. And I don't really amaze myself no more, like really, because I know. I mean, that sounds cocky, but people, I'm just saying, and I really challenge anybody at any given time. But that I know I'm gonna do something dope. I already know I'm gonna produce something hot. I just know it. Now, and that's funny that you said, and when you asked me about writing another book, which I do want to write, and this is gonna be like, I don't know. I think I want it to be fiction, but yet based off of my life a little bit, because my life has been very, very interesting, which as anyone else's has. So I definitely want to do that too. But as far as the way that, see, because let me ask you a question. How many books have you written?
That are done and published, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
6 or 7.
Okay. And what about
Some of
poetry?
that's included in that. I think I have 3
Okay.
poetry books and working on another one for the end of the year.
Oh, okay. Um, but like you said, I never even thought of it like that when you said like, okay, so this character wouldn't say this and that. Like mine's, I didn't think that way. And because I don't know if it's different, do you think that due to the fact that this is your profession, this is what you do you think that when you create when you're writing something so you can give me some a helpful hint for my next book,
Okay.
that when you create characters, that you literally have to create these characters, and and you have to, because I didn't do it this way. Mine was just like, it was really random. It was right off my head, from my brain to my hand, and it was just going like, it was, I think it was a divine spiritualness that was happening with me. So, and also because mine was sex based, do you think that due to the fact of the subject matter, that may have played a part in me not being able to, or able to create, like, no, she don't say this, he don't say that. That's how, do you think that, or does that even matter because it's based around sex
I
as far
don't
as the
think the
characters is
topic.
concerned?
Yeah, I'm not sure the topic matters. The
Okay.
character is the character. So maybe it's just something where it's so clear in your mind that there's no question that the character says this thing. You never have that issue. Or maybe it has to do with the length of time that character is in the story. Because if it's a shorter story, then you don't get to know the character that well. And if it's longer,
Mm.
then you're thinking about it all the time. And you, as the writer, I think would know a lot more about that character than anyone else. That's why it's interesting to hear what other people think about the characters when they read a work, whether it's a short story, a longer story, whatever, is just to hear how it resonates with them. I think that's the element of writing taking on a life of its own and being from somewhere else or inspired by something else outside of us, because other people can look at it and get a different thing. And you might be able to look at it at a different time in your life and go, wow, I didn't realize when I wrote this that this storyline was going on too. So
Mm.
it's interesting as far as characters go. And then the idea of developing a character, I think we probably use what we have experienced in life, people we know, and we might mix that together, stereotypes and experiences and all that. Or if you're having trouble starting with a character, I would take animals that I knew, because you don't talk to them. I mean, you talk to a dog or a cat, but they have their own personality too, and you get to know them because you've been around them so much. And maybe you even make up a voice for them, like when you're talking to them and they talk back to you. Yeah, that's character development. So you could use the attitude of a childhood pet for a character in a story and then go from there. And I think once you started writing it and putting that character in different situations, that it would take on a life of its own, and it would start to answer questions of other characters. One exercise, if you're just practicing writing or you don't know what to write, you can't start, then you just take two people you know or people you
Mm.
don't know, just people you imagine, and then they have a conversation about something. They could be in the grocery store, they could be at a club, they could be at church, at school, anywhere. And they're just going to start having a dialogue back and forth, and that character's growing out of that moment. I think it's similar to how we grow, where we're just here as a baby and then we start to grow through all these experiences, and that's how our character grows.
Oh wow. You know what? Yeah, you know, I think maybe that's why I wasn't able to really concentrate on, because there's 7 stories. So I think I don't know how many majority, when it, no, it was more than like 2 people to each story. I'm sure of that. But the reason why I don't think that I was able to really to get to know them and also create like this image for them is because the story was short, I guess. And because I mean it wasn't a novel, so like it was cut and dry. I think the most of the longest of the pages is probably like 20 pages or something like that, and less.
Okay.
So like they're really short stories. Um, but yeah, but that's very interesting. And now that you said that, and it it's true. Like the about some characters you write about experiences, because now that I'm thinking about it, it was this another story that I've written in the book, and it's about girlfriends. And at the time, it was I had like 2 other girlfriends, and then I added like a fourth. So it was from that experience, but not the setting of the sex partner, that was just all come from my imagination, and also from watching porn and stuff like that. So yeah, and just being creative, and thinking out. And I'm also I'm a person who likes to think outside the box. Like, I just don't like stay in the lines. I've never have. That's probably why it was difficult for me to kind of learn things, because the way my mind was set up, everybody's mind is set up real different. So yeah, that was interesting, because
Yeah,
I've
you
been
just need
thinking.
to go
No, I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
You
No,
just
go
need to
ahead.
figure out how you learn and what you're interested in, and then it gets better from there. So, with your fashion and writing and dancing, which one of those came first, and do they connect with each other?
Uh, well, the dancing, the fashion and the dancing probably are like they're parallel. So, and then like the writing came in because, like I said, even before this guy had asked me to write this book, I was dibbling dabbling, like I said, in the poetry that I never said out loud to anyone, and
Mm-hmm.
it's somewhere deep inside my book, which I need to go out and look at that. But yeah, but those two are parallel, and yeah, the dancing and the fashion is definitely parallel. And I think, well, you know what, that is so, wow, you just taking me way back. um I used to write as my thoughts in my diary, as a kid, and also a kid who lives in Flint, Michigan. That was like, Flint was so boring. Oh my Lord, have mercy, Jesus Christ. It was like a super boring place. Like, where, I mean, meaning like compared to where I am now, like it was just, well, even now, but it's a great place to, if you want like some nice relaxation and some ease and some quietness. That's a great place to go for that. But yeah, I used to write in my diary. So, I never really thought of it like in that way. That's a good question, which I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
come back and, yeah, because I don't.
those creative things, I think, are connected somehow. So,
Mm-hmm.
I would think that if you're young Real writing in her notebook, dancer, fashion, writer, that those thoughts were there really early. So, and if you're journaling, that's writing. The best part I like about writing is it teaches you how to think, because you have to organize your thoughts enough to be able to get them from your mind to the paper. And that's the difference between writers and not writers too, is if you can't help but write it down, or you understand enough that your mind is like, look, get this out so you can see it and think about it in a different way than just inside your mind. Put it on the piece of paper, draw a picture about it, do something with it to where you can interact with it differently. Then that's what a writer is. A writer writes. So you have those stages of it, of everybody's thinking about things. So
Mm-hmm.
then the next stage is, now I'm going to think about it and think, maybe I should write this down, or save it in some other way. Maybe it's a painting, maybe it's a song. And then you think about that, and then the next step is doing it. So you have to put it on paper or whatever, and then reread it, make it better, think about it more. And you're thinking about these things that normally are just passing thoughts or daydreams or whatever you're thinking about in your mind. But now it's out there in the world doing something else. Just, well, you get into the whole idea of existence and what we're here for and what it is we're living and how are we here and all of those things. I mean, that's difficult to think about just in your head. You got to write some stuff down or do a sculpture every now and then, or
Mm.
exhibit it in dance or in fashion or whatever, some sort of creative outlet.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know what I find? I find that a lot of people that I've come across do not know how to communicate thoroughly. Like, really say the thing that you need to say without like thinking that you're gonna hurt my feelings, or let all that go. Like say what you need to say. I find that a lot of people do not know how to communicate. Do you think, and from your observation, from people who are writers, do you think they are better communicators?
I mean, some writers are better than others, so some communicators are better than others, and you're going to have all those different types of people that communicate in different ways. Some people are a little crazy. Some people are a little more on the sterile side of it, where it's a more scientific type thinking versus a more ethereal type thinking. Like so it runs the gambit. But I think if you're going to go with a generalization, that if somebody knows how to write, then they have to think a certain way to be able to write it down, unless they're writing gibberish. And even then, who knows, that might mean something to someone else. But we had in the academy, I was a trooper in Virginia for some years. And in the State Police Academy, you go there and you stay. When I went, you stayed for Sunday night through Friday afternoon, and then you were off on the weekends, but you stayed there in Richmond, Chesterfield, really, at the academy. And you had to write a notebook and all these other things as part of the training. And it was some 30 or 40 weeks at the time, maybe. And then we had in one academy class, they had a person that they were having problems with. It wasn't my academy class, but it was another one. And in the notebook, where you get your notebook checked by the sergeant at the end of the week, because you had to take notes for all your classes, because they want your handwriting to be good or neat. And then they want you to study, obviously. So you have to rewrite pages and all this. But anyway, in his notebook, it just read over and over again, 1 sock, 2 sock, green sock, blue sock, Jesus stinky feet. Over and over again in his notebook. He didn't become a trooper. And I think that goes down to, why would you write pages and pages of that? What's going on in your mind that you write that? And in some world, maybe it makes sense to that person. Maybe it makes sense to someone else. Maybe it makes sense. But are writers better communicators? I think if you can think clearly, that's the first step. And then if you can get that out on paper, that's pretty good communication. And then if you can talk about it the way you think about it, then that's pretty good. I would say maybe writers think about communicating more than the average person. So in general, hopefully they would be better at communicating.
Yeah, because I find that's like a serious problem. No, and also like I was just thinking to myself, it's so funny that we having this conversation. I have 3 books that I bought that I'm just sitting there. And I'm like, why haven't I read these books? I don't know what's going on with me, but it's definitely, and I love to read, but I was just like, I don't know what's going on with me. But then again, I have a lot of projects that I'm working on. So, but then again, that's an excuse, because it's not like I don't have no free time, because I do. I just don't. I haven't been picking it up. I don't know what's going on, but I got to figure that one out. But as far as like with the writing thing, another thing too that I know that I'm good at, and that's writing a song. I had just recently told my son, I'll be in it, and it'll come up. It'll just be coming out, and I just be like, just write. And it's not that I put down. Like I would normally record myself. But then I realized that I'm really good at making what is that? The chorus. Like I'm good at that. And I did write one song. Like I always create like a hot chorus, like always, like, and it'll be random. And I'll use my recorder to record myself like saying it. And I have to do something with that too. And what's just awful is like in school, which I think school kind of do kids like such a disservice when they don't tell them about all these occupations that they could possibly be in. And now when I also went to college as well. I didn't graduate from fashion I did, but I went to HBCU. like writing was never like, no one never really tell you like, yo, you can be a, especially to a black person so much. Well, to me, I'll say, like you can be a writer, because maybe I probably would have jumped on that. So I think that the school system needs to broaden these children's mindsets on different places where they can go and be great at, which is something that's already a part of you. You know what I'm saying? So you won't be wasting your life doing some shit that you don't even want to fucking do. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying?
Well, with
Like
writing,
your
I'm not sure that a lot of people make a living writing. I think that might be more of a thing you do on the side. And if you get lucky, you get picked up somewhere and you fall into a job, whether it's reporting, doing some sort of technical writing or something like that.
and that's awful. That's
Well,
awful. I mean, I know that's the way of the world, but yeah, but that's awful though. That's
think
really,
of how
really
many
awful.
writers are famous after they die. So that's just the way it happens sometimes.
That's so awful. That's awful. That's really,
So,
really awful.
when did your fashion interest start to take more of your time to where you were like, I'm going to go to school for this. I'm going to develop this more.
Well, I've always been creating. Um, like since the sixth grade, I remember doing something like always. Like I said, I've always dressed like different. Always had my own style. As far as me taking I've always known that I was going to be a fashion designer. So I went to college. Actually, I thought I wanted to be a dentist because I love teeth.
Oh, okay.
And but I remember I had an internship when I was in high school. When I went in that office, I was just like, oh no, I could not come in here every day. Like, this is not the scene that I want to be a part of. Like, no. So, but then, so I did that. Then I went to college, because I thought I wanted to be a dentist. Did that for 2 years. And then I just was like, who book was I reading? I'm gonna keep it a buck. I was reading Madonna's book because I was a big Madonna fan. Because like she was um, so confident in her sexuality. I liked her music, and she's from Michigan, so I
Oh,
feel like I
okay.
had a connection with her. So I was reading her book. I was selling my clothes at a thrift store it's like a thrift store. It was like a pop up. That's what they call them now. But it was because they only happen on the weekends. And what I was doing was I was upcycling clothes. That means like you would take so for a designer, like somebody who's, well, even people do it now. You can take like a blank, let's just say a t-shirt or a hoodie. This is your canvas. You take that canvas and you turn it into something extraordinary, right? You could cut it. You can do all types of things, put different types of seams. You can change the fit. You can add. You can paint. You can do all sorts of things. So I was doing that, but not necessarily with t-shirts, just with clothes in general, with whatever from trousers to jackets to suit jackets, sneakers. I was doing all sorts of things,
Is this
and
80s time frame?
yeah, it definitely was.
Okay. All right. All
And
right.
I was reading her book, and mind you, she was like, she just upped and moved to New York. And I was just, after I finished reading, and at that thrift store, I said, I'm moving. I told my mother, I said, yo, and mind you, when I moved, I didn't know anywhere. No one, I knew one person that was lived here, but I didn't really, really know him. He was a friend of a friend. And I came here, and my life just been what it went. But I didn't get serious. I was always serious about my fashion, but I didn't as a business, not yet. Because people understand the creativity, but the business part people lacks. And it's not like a lot. Well, anything is a lot. It takes a lot of your time. You need to, you have to have you have to be financially literate. You know, you have to know how to do all of these things. So I was still creating, and I would make people's clothes, like they'll see something that I wore, and I would do things like that here and there. And I think it took me, 2000 something is when I actually went to FIT. Yeah, that was the early 2000s when I was like, you know what, I really got to sit down, and I think this is what I need to, because I need to learn some things. And I did that. But the crazy thing about fashion is that, and the industry is that it's very fucking racist, especially for somebody who looked like me. Like, I'm not a black girl who like a white girl. I'm not a black girl who try to check. Like, I love everything about myself. So when I come in, I'm looking just like I'm being me. Like, but of course, like, I know how to, I switch it up with my style and all that, because I'm always giving flavor. But no, like, I was just not accepted because of who I am, the way I wear my hair. I knew that's gonna be the first thing you see. You know what I'm saying? Because I always rock African hairstyles. I'm an African woman, so why wouldn't I? So it was definitely racist towards me. And I could never find a job after I graduated. I was like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Like, how can I not? You see me, when you see me, you know what time it is. Like, don't even play with it. Like, you see me, like, what? But they wasn't giving me none of that. So, I think I was a little too black, too strong. And so in that moment of me beating the pavement for like a year and a half, coming up with nothing, absolutely nothing, they want to offer me a fucking, what's that, an internship. Excuse me? We already did internships. I am a graduate. What are you saying? So in that moment, I was like, you know what? You need to do your own thing, and that's it. And that's it. But that's that is a move within itself too, because there's a lot of struggles. People, like, it's the psychology behind people and the way that they buy shit. Like, it blows my mind, because I'm very observant. I watch how people move. If they don't know you, like, if they can see something that they like, and they'll see it, and I can tell that they like something. They'll like something. If I'm out vending or whatever, they'll just walk past it and just keep on, or they'll think that my prices is too high. Bitch, I don't know how much you think this is, or how you thought that this came about. But no, this isn't an easy task, and I'm not mass producing these garments. You understand what I'm saying? So you have that against you. You have your prices. People always try to, like, no, they don't want to pay your price, or they'll see it, they just won't buy it because they don't know you. And everybody is on some, if it's Louis Vuitton, like all these brands that everybody already know, then they'll be quick to be like this. But with me, or like independent ones, no, we have a really hard time. It's a struggle, but if you love it, you just keep on going. And this is one of the ways that I definitely express myself, is through that. And
you got to get into the industry somehow. So when you do pieces, are they all distinct, like their own, like this is this type of shirt and there's no other shirt like it? Or do you do a line of different types of clothing, like this type of shirt here, these types of pants?
See,
How
with
are
the
you doing
creativity,
that?
yeah. So with the creativity, when I first started, I thought that I was just being like super creative, and everybody isn't fashion forward. That's like 1% of the population is really fashion forward. Most people are trendy. And if you look at, I don't know, like I said, I'm observant. So if you sit back and you just watch the majority of the people, especially in the summertime, everybody wear a t-shirt. In the wintertime, everybody have on a hoodie. You know what I'm saying? Jeans. Now finding like some nice jeans to fit, that's a whole process, and that requires, like, you need to mass produce that. So, but I would do, like, well, for the summer, like, I was doing swimwear, and I also had like a line of tees that I did that I thought was gonna do really, really well, but they just didn't. I don't know. But you know, you just never really know once you put your stuff
Right.
out there. So you I find that most designers' mistakes is when they first come out, like you just want to be super creative and you just want to express yourself like this, but you can't express yourself like that to the masses because the masses they can't even get with that. They may even like it or something, but they like, girl, where am I wearing that? Like I can't, they don't even know how to put it together or wear it to, or what occasion to wear it to, or you know, that type of thing. So you have to pipe your creativity all the way down. I had to learn how to do like take it all the way down because you can't be too creative. You can be very, very creative when you're doing a fashion show. Now that you can. So that's
Yeah,
when you
it
need to
seems
wow
like
them.
just thinking about it, you have the over the top, super creative stuff, and then you hone in on some little something, one thing on it that makes it different. And then that's what you put into a line of if it's the way a shirt's cut or the way it lays or whatever, then you just put that one thing in there and then maybe the fashion whatever picks it up and says, okay, this is trendy for everybody. And then you have to do the trendy sometimes to get
Oh yeah.
the ability to do the super creative thing.
Yeah, but then you know, but the way that my mind is set up, for real, like I mean, I don't, I'm definitely not a trendy person, but I know when I'm creating for the masses that I definitely have to bring my creativity all the way down. And even sometime with that, I think I'll still be thinking outside the box a little bit because some people like they'll be like they like it or so, but I just the sales is just not cool. But and now it's also marketing too. You have to be if you ain't got that money for the marketing because you have to be marketing every day. You have to be always in their face, like anything else. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, but you know, I keep on, I keep going, I keep pressing, I keep, you know, it was just this fashion week. I definitely wanted to do a fashion show. Well, that was my plan. I started in April, scouting out spaces, and the one space I wanted to do was Central Park. Was where Black people used to live, and it was called Seneca Village. So they have labeled certain areas, although I believe it was the whole Central Park, but whatever. They labeled selective spots that they call Seneca Village. So I went, paid the fee for because it's the parks department, and they told me no. So I was like, oh, I was crushed by that. Then you know I went to somewhere else, and they took a long time to get back to me. So you know, I digress, but I keep on moving. I'm gonna do it next year, and I want to do mine outside because I'm an outdoors person, so I love to be outside.
Is your fashion line available online? Do you have a
Oh
website
yeah.
for that?
Well, I did, but I had to, you know, if it's not making dollars, it doesn't make sense. So I was like, so I went to Etsy. So I'm doing it on Etsy right now.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'm still doing that. And you know, I still have my personal clients and also I'm not only am I a designer, I'm also a stylist. Because you know a lot of designers are just, I mean, not said just because that's a big thing, are designers, but they're not stylists. So like my mind, I put everything together, and this is where like I always have problems with people, like you know, other creative people. Like say if I remember one time doing a fashion show that I was asked to be a part of, and I was a part of it, and I guess they have their own stylist, but I've been up all night, right, creating the look. I don't, and then I'll be looking at these girls and these guys, looking at them like, honey, you don't even have no style. Go have a seat. You can't do real nice, honey. I got this. So I would always have problems with people because I'm like 2 steps ahead. I don't need somebody like just who come and looking at my garment like, oh, I think you need to put that. No, honey, I already got this. So you can go have a seat. Go over there and I don't know, go help somebody else. I don't need that. Thank you.
Is a stylist a person that puts together the whole look then? Like
Right.
if you're
Yep.
talking about fashion, then it's just
Mm-hmm.
everything from shoes
head
to
to
hat.
toe. Yep.
Okay.
Um, and I create like the whole look, like if I have that ability, because sometimes when you're doing somebody else's fashion show, you don't have no control over the makeup, and you don't have control over the hair. And depending on the person's hair, if they were able to put on a wig, and if the models are willing, well, to wear a wig, because I also style wigs as well. So yeah, so I put my entire like look together.
Do you have a place where you can connect with other creative people, like with photographers and models and other designers? Is
Uh,
there's a I've been to a couple meetings of like I can't remember the name of it now, but like filmmakers, and you
mhm.
have everybody there in the business, from lighting to just behind camera support to directors and producers and all that, and you can see all the different perspectives it takes to put a movie together, or a film, if
Mm.
you want to call it that. So I wonder if fashion is similar to that. If you just start thinking, well, what do I need? I need a photographer, I need a model, I need some fashion, and then I need a location. That I wonder if you can get with aspiring or popular or yet to be popular, soon to be popular photographers and models, and then you can do it easier, and you just do it out in the street somewhere, or you subway platform or alleyway that looks nice, or
Mhm.
whatever, and then you get the pictures done, and then you have something to show for it. And you can say, here's the fashion, and then the models have something to put in their portfolio. The photographer has something that they're adding their little spice of creativity to, getting the certain angles or perspective they normally do, and then everybody's getting something out of it, and you just build your connections for creativity around that.
But let me tell you something. Like my experience, and this I can only speak for myself. But I find that like when you dealing with it depends. Like everybody is different, and everybody's perspective is different. And then not that I'm controlling, but like I just be seeing things. So I have done photo shoots and stuff like that. And some photographers are really good to and easy to work with. That like as far as like they allow me to also, well, it should be a collective thing, but some people can be like so like dominant, and this is my thing. Let me you done did the fashion thing. Let me direct the model. But sometimes like I'll be seeing other things, and it can be a little. Creative people think that every creative person that I ever worked with, everybody think that they is just so above the next one, and myself, you know what I'm saying. So, but yeah, I have worked with those where people with other photographers and models. I probably need to do that a little bit more, but I be busy. Now my whole focus pretty much is with my seductive art. That's kind of like where my mind is, and my brand is kind of secondary. Um but yet still important. And also, like, since we're talking about writing, what about, have you ever, because I also want to do a film too. I definitely want to write a film. Have you written a screenplay or anything like?
I haven't finished one and I haven't published one, but I've been working on it, and it's very interesting because it's a different type of writing. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to think that if you had a book and somebody wanted to make a movie of it, then just make a movie of it. You got it right there.
Right.
Everything you need's right there. And that's not
Mm.
the case. And it is something to practice. It is something that people are better at than others. But with script writing, it's it's not even instructions you're writing, it's suggestions you're writing to the actor and to the director. So the director is going to have their take on it, and it might not be what your take is as the writer,
Mm.
and the actor is going to have their take on it, and it does make a difference, good acting and bad acting. You can tell. I think a good actor could probably make bad writing still look good to a point, but when you have bad writing and bad acting and bad directing, that's just a bad movie. But it's it's interesting to look at screenwriting, because you can say, in a book you write a scene that's outside a grocery store at night, and it's going to take you pages to describe that. But in script writing, all you say at the beginning of that scene is exterior, night, grocery store, and it's done.
And us and you also have to put the dialogue as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then but that your scene is set, and now you go with the dialogue. So it's more dialogue than anything else. And then anytime you think a person should do a certain thing or say it a certain way, that's a suggestion because the actor and the director are going to have a different vision from it. So I think it's much more collaborative than any other type of writing, certainly because there's more people involved. And I think it's worth practicing. The best way I've found is take some shows or movies that you like and then read the screenplay for it. And you start to see the format for it, but you feel you go, wow, this is really the skeletons of it, really. It's the actor and the director that put their life to it. So yeah, it's worth doing. I would take sitcoms and read those if you like them, and then practice a little. It's yeah, that's worth doing. So your seductress art is the thing that's taking up most of your time. What is that?
Seductive art. Okay,
Seductive.
so I have a service called Seductive Art. I don't know, did I give you my backstory? Well, I am also I'm a former sex worker. No, I was not a prostitute, people. Everybody's in the prostitute being a sex worker. I was an exotic dancer. I also used to get hired. I was hired as a hostess to swinger parties, to multiple swinger parties throughout the city. I also was a stylist on pornographic films, as well as, I've written my book, Quickie, which is 7 short erotic stories. So, like I said, I'm very observant. So I'm just sit back one day and I'm just looking at women, just watching them, just looking at them as they walking by, and also just conversations that I have. And for some strange reason, I guess I have this type of energy where people like to tell me, like people I don't even know, just share their sexual experience with me, men, women. It blows but then I'm very talkative. So I start talking to people. People just start like, well, this, da, 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 da. So I'm sitting back, I'm looking at women, and I was just like, it's a lot of women, especially Black women, although they say that Black women are just overly sexualized and which is so far from the truth. I mean, there are some, and ain't nothing wrong. I support women who are confident in their sexuality and feel like doing whatever they want to do with their body, as an adult. You know what I'm saying? It's fine. But most of them are really having conflict with their own personal sexuality. Why? Because they look at the media, especially as Black women, you don't see nobody who look like you. You don't see nobody who got a body like yours. And if they do got a body like yours, they done bought the shit. You know what I'm saying? And then like you consider secondary, although this is a part of who you are as a person. Like, what type of fucked up shit is that? But so that, and then to be feminine. Sometimes women, especially if you're the head of a household, because I'm a head of the household and I also have a child. And I even peeped myself. Like I walk very confidently because I have to. Not just because I'm a woman. I'm a woman who's the head of a household, and you can't be like, I don't know, walking around like doody doo, like in your mind. And so I don't know, like, just real pretty, and not mind you, I am very that, but still I have my toughness because you have to have that because people will try you. But yet sometimes some women don't know how to pull that back, especially when you with a man, or when a man is trying to court you or get to know you. You have to learn, you got to dial that back, just know that you still are a woman. You're feminine, and be relaxed and sit in it. But some of them don't understand that. So I was looking at them and notice that they don't have that. And also when it comes to dancing, a lot of women don't even know how to, well, first with heels, they don't know how to walk in heels. They don't understand heels requires maintenance like everything else. Heels require, I be seeing some women's shoes that be ate up in the back. and they don't know how to, like, it's a technique to it. Does it hurt? Yes, especially when you're on stilettos, when you're on a heel like that, when your foot is flat, or when you're on the ball of your foot and then your heel is up. I don't give a damn how much you pay for them shoes. Your feet is going to hurt, and sometimes they will bleed. I had some bad shoes on one time. My feet was, I took my heels off, the back of it was bloody. Like, and this is something that happened. But some women do not know that how the technique of walking in heels. And on top of that, like, say if you're doing something for your lover, your husband, your wife, whatever, and you want to entertain them, they don't understand that either. They think that it's all like, and ain't nothing wrong with twerking, because twerking, that's that's a part of African culture. So it's a part of our culture, like, just period. First thing that I've always been learning how to do was, like, when as a kid, I was always popping my ass all around. So that's nothing new. But doing that is a good exercise, and it is cute to see. But when you with your partner, you want to be easy, you want to be soft, you want to seduce, you want to tease, and sometimes women forget that part, and they give it up like so easily. And you wearing something like, and women forget, like, sometimes some men don't want lingerie. I've heard some men like, no, I want them to wear a suit. I like them to wear something sexy, like that's like clothes. And then you slowly take it off, like, to teach them how to do that. So that's what that is. And I just had a seductive art workshop in Michigan. I'm having my next one in New York, in Harlem, on the 23rd of November. So, but that's what's, like, taking up all my time. And in the midst of all that, of course, I'm producing, talking about my book and stuff.
How can people follow your work then? Do you have a website for the seductive art?
Well, actually, I have my YouTube channel is Rill Seductive. Whenever I say spell like my name, which is RILL, Rill and Seductive, you can follow me there. I'll be dropping mad jewels on that. I also look at this. I also write. I have a blog. I write about fashion. For seductive art, it's realsextalk.blogspot.com. So I write about sex on there. And I also write on about fashion at that'srealnice.blogspot.com. And so that's how you can find me and all the things that I'm doing. And my book is on Smashwords. You can find that on Smashwords.
Okay.
And it's just
I have
called
all
Quickie.
of those. Yep. I have all those links in the show notes so people can find those easily, as well as your Twitter and Facebook as well.
Okay, cool.
Thank you very much for your time. I know you had a time limit on there. We've gone about 2 minutes over, but do you have any thoughts in closing?
First of all, I want to say thank you. I'm glad that we had this conversation, because you have opened up my mind and didn't even really realize, like, how much of a writer that I really, really am. And I think I really need to really hound in on it. And you gave me some very helpful thoughts. Tips, and I appreciate that. This has been a serious learning experience for me, and I appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. And I'll talk to you on the other side of this musical exit.
Thank you.